Well, welcome back to the final episode of the construction part of the Mini Lancer. First thing I'm going to address is the undercarriage. So, I bent mine up. I've got to be honest with you, the support wire, the back one, not the main undercarriage, that needed a little bit of tweaking just to get it to fit. Now, I'm going to tell you what I did. I held it in place with a pair of mole grips, and I got the copper wire, straightened it out, cut it in half, and I have now wrapped that round there. Now, there's two ways you can do this. If you've got an industrial style soldering iron, which I used to have and unfortunately got chucked out, or you might be able to gas torch it. I might even try. This is not. You're not going to get a standard soldering iron to get that hot enough to cover all of that. But an industrial soldering iron, or possibly a gas torch, just to get it up to temperature. But I'm going to have a crack at one. I'm going to see if I'm going to look around for that soldering iron. I suspect it's gone, but if not, I might be using some gas. I'll speak to you shortly. We need to build a plane that we can use a staple gun. Hey! I think that might work. All I've got to do is put a fuse in the plug. Let's hope it works. Yeah, definitely. We got to come up with the plane that we use a staple gun. It's very satisfying to use. Right, let's get this undercarriage soldered. Right, one industrial soldering iron. I'm going to leave that on there like that to heat the wire up. Let's add some solder. Ooh. Ah, damn it. That went slightly better than I was expecting. Right, I warn you now, do not expect this to be a lesson on soldering. Right, I can hear all those keyboards thrashing around in the background. Just cleaned it up, tiny little wire brush. I'm really pleased with that. That's gone all right. I have actually got. I could have silver soldered that because I've got a little gas torch for just getting it all out, and I thought this is more likely the route that most modelers are going to go down. The irony is my first ever job was as a trainee dental technician, and my specialty was orthodontic appliances. So we used to make these very, very small little brackets, and we would then I was the only one that had the good enough eyesight to solder all those little that used to go on the sides of teeth, not in the patient's mouth but on a plaster model. I don't think I'll be doing that again, not with these arthritic thumbs. Anyway, I waffle. Undercarriage done. I am just going to pre-drill the holes, and then I'm just going to sit it down just to make sure that everything's okay, and then I'm going to move on to some mass sanding and then installation. Okay, so I get asked this a lot about this type of finishing, where I'm now going to use that clear, lovely clear gloss from Angel Wing Design. Literally hung it up outside and used a cheap can of spray paint. There, it's so cheap, £2.69. I reckon for this model you might need 2 cans. So I've done that. I've done the ailerons. Basically, now the next thing we're going to do is I'm now going to get all my gear orientated, and I'm going to drop that in. Next thing is I'm going to cover it. Right, there you go. One wing covered in feather gloss from Angel Wing Designs. I mean, it even sounds strong. So I'm just going to crack on. If I get time, I'll just do I already done a couple of videos on covering with this. And no, you don't have to pre-paint it. I mean, yeah, if you wanted to get a nice finish, you could possibly spray some matte on it first and then go afterwards, but for this purposes this is absolutely fine. The winglets I am going to cover in white film, and they're going to get glued on, and then I've not used the castellated ends on this particular project. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on doing some more covering and I'll get back to you. Right, welcome back, and I have just hinged my ailerons. I'll tell you what I did do is just ran a ruler along the trailing edge, marked interstitially where the hinges were going to go. Top tip, I just used flat blade, went in along the length of the width of the hinge, and then I actually go backwards on the blunt end. Oh yeah, lucky that was the blunt end. If you just work that backwards and forwards on the blunt end, that will give you enough space to actually slide those in. Now, the other thing I have done is, as you can see, I've got one set up already, but all I've done is I've just blocked that off with my servos already set. And all I'm going to do now, one top tip here, also make sure that you've got the thread that's gone through the top of that clevis. So you don't want sort of just screwed it in 4 or 5 times, because there's a certain amount of strength is required for that as well. So don't just thread it in a couple of, like 2 or 3 turns and think that's it. You really want a little bit more depth like that. So I've just marked mine now, and just going to clip these in, and then they're ready to go. So the wing's ready to go. The only thing I've got to do is I've just got to get some whites for the winglets. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get back to you on installing the rudder servo and the elevator servo, and we're getting very close. Right, so I'm just sorting out the rudder. Top tip, don't put your elevator servo in just yet, because we're going to have to do some malarkey of feeding some cables through here. It doesn't make any big difference, but it's just going to make it easier to fiddle about. Now, I've just gently clamped the cable. I've got my rods on here all ready to go. So I've got my servo centered, and I'm just popping them in there. I'm going to drop them down to about the same height, and then I'm trying to guess literally where it's going to come out. So I've got a little, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Tell you what we'll do. If I do that there, like that, do that there, like that. Right, now then, there's my wire. It's going to be joining about there. The rudder pulled tight. So it looks like it's going to come through about here. So that's where it's coming through, and then I've got to line it up to where I think it's just going to be. So if I line it over the top of the control arm and then put that cross there, that one is where I'm going to put my hole. Let me just check that again.
do get the vibe it wants to come slightly. I'm going to go slightly further forward on that, I think, and do that there, get that lined up. Let's have a little look. I think that's going to do it. Go down there like that. Yeah, right, so I'm going to do exactly the same the other side, and then this is going to give me the markings. And I need to talk to you just about the rudder in a moment as well. So I've got the length, it's just really getting it lined up there. That's going there, I think. Right, put that one there. Because you don't want it pulling out. Let me just make sure I've got that over the hole. Yeah, I have. I'm going on the inner hole with this. Outer hole's on the servo, so I've got over the arm. Yeah. See, I'm slightly out with that. I think that there. Right, let me just check the other side. On there like that, yeah. Right, there's my two holes. They look about centre over the fuselage as well. So I am going to drill myself a hole, but don't forget we've got to go at an angle, so I'm not going straight in. So I'm going to just do a little pilot hole, and then we're looking to angle it that way, like so. Then when I've got them in place, I'm just going to drop a little bit of protective tube in there. I mean, it could actually run quite smoothly in the fuselage, I'm guessing, but I'm just going to put about that much length in it, and just remember to slide them on before I start nipping it up. Right, so there's that bit. I'm just going to do these and I'll get back to you. Right, I fed one through. I went in at about that angle with my Dremel, and I've got to be honest with you, that seems to move backwards and forwards really well on now. I'm wondering whether I'm going to bother with I wonder if I'm going to bother, you know, with a plastic tube. I'm going to try the other one, but I think I might just leave it, you know. Right, I fed that one through as well, and that one feels to be super smooth as well, so I think I'm going to leave it. There's nothing, no mention in the instructions about putting a plastic tube in. I think what I might do is I might just ease this just here, but yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Oh God, how annoying was that? I took the tape off and it just peeled a little bit of the covering off around from where the hole was, so I've just had to put that patch on. Oh, that does annoy me. Right, now then, I've got that fed through on this side. So the theory is, we have your ferrule here. This is your ferrule, this little chap here. So the idea is you feed that on first, like so. Oh, you can't see, can you? Let me just drop this down so you can actually, let me get this sorted for you. Right, there you go. Right, there's the wire. So you feed part of the ferrule in first, feed half the ferrule in first, like so, like that. Oh, come on, Nick. That ferrule goes in there like that. Okay, so then the idea is that then feeds through the hole like so, and then that and feed the other half of the ferrule in like so. There you go. And you want a little bit of slack. You don't want it coming out the whole way. You want some of the cable coming out. You don't want it. You don't want this ferrule tight up to the. You want a little bit of flex. So that's what I've got there. Now what I'm going to do is I am just going to put these in their two halves like so, and then I'm going to crimp this up, crush this down with a pair of pliers. I've got that like that. Let's get that ferrule in there like that. There you go. Oh. Right. I'm just gonna. There. That bad boy is going nowhere. So that, I'm going to do both of these now. That's going to fit down in the fuselage. You can actually put a wick of sino in there. I do not believe that is going to come out. So that's going to go in there like so. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. And I'll get back to you when we do the working end. So got the other end. Make sure that, look down and make sure that the wires aren't crossed. I've recentered my servo again just to make sure that nothing got knocked during the process. I'm feeding the ferrule on. We have the rudder clamped. I am going for the inside hole like so. That's on there like that, and then what we do is we get the other bit, put that through there like so. Now what I like to do, I'm no expert at this, I have done this on a few ironically full-size sailplanes and hang gliders. Right, I've now clamped that. I'm now going to pull that up like so. Again, you want a gap, so you want a loop. Don't have the ferrule right up close. Let me just whack this one up. And what I normally do, right, that bad boy's clamped up, and we will in a moment cut off the, so don't worry that it's gone slack, that's perfectly fine, because what's going to happen now is we are going to take this other one and do exactly the same. Oh, ferrule first, Nick, ferrule first. Just the ferrule in there. I'm going to feed that up like so. Feed the ferrule through. Good tip if you're doing this, don't drink a load of coffee first. Right, there's my ferrule, there's my spare wire. Right, what you want to do is, sorry if my hand's in the way. Right, so I'm going to pull that one up. Just pull that one up. And then again, that's clamped. Right, I'm going to cut the wires off. Let's get this off. Right, I have installed the elevator in exactly, so I've just literally just screwed obviously into the plates that were there, clamped the elevator in place, and so she's now good to go, and it's not, just make sure that the horn is not going to foul on anything when you install it. So that's ready to do. So that's all the gear installed. Now all I've got to do is we're just going to sort out the magnets for the hatch
add the wheels, and we're ready to go. So magnets on the right way with the orientation. The little tag I've medium super glued in. I've got to be honest with you, and I will mention this to Mark, I'm not a big fan of this. There's not a lot of area to support the magnet. So what I actually did was, because it broke through on the edge of the triangle, I mean, it cries out to have a little ply plate across here, just with the magnets in. But what I did was I actually put some tape on the inside, and then when I filled it with glue, that worked like to fill that area that's missing. But it all goes together nicely. Got the there you go, look, clunk. So anyway, that's done. Now all we've got to do is put the wheels on and then set the gear up. Right, my last thing to do is the wingtips. Now, earlier in the video I said I wasn't going to use the castellated nuts. Just for personal experience, I would rather it gets, if I rip it off, I want it ripping off via the glue. So what I've done is, and this is outside of the normal kit, because normally you'd have castellated nuts and then you would just screw them in. I've basically covered one side, covered the other side, and then I've added these tiny little carbon knobs. And they are going to fit on there just really for location more than anything, and then I'm going to glue it on. All I did was I'd actually lightly covered the inside, held it upside down like so, and then went round with a pencil, so that gave it a mark. I'm now just going to glue this on, and then I'll see you in a tick. Okay, we're nearly there with the Mini Lancer. Now, I just want to have a quick chat to you about the gear installation. So all the servos that I've used are high-tech HS8MG, so that means they're metal geared. So that's that same servo for rudder, elevator, and both the ailerons. That I think was what was suggested, and they fitted perfectly into all the servo slots. Now, what I like to do, you'll notice I have no prop connected at the moment. What I normally do is I'll set my rudder up, my elevator up, and the ailerons up on my receiver. We're just using just a small receiver battery. You'll also notice, because I haven't got the prop on at the moment, and I've also got the speed controller is hanging out of the fuselage, and there's a reason. Let me just talk you through how I actually do it, and it's just a question of safety, because this is where a lot of accidents can happen. So I now have got the tail surfaces are all done, and I am now going to be setting up the motor, and the prop is off for an obvious reason. Is if for any reason it's not set up properly and it goes to full power, it's either going in the side of the cabin or it's going to seriously hurt you. So what I like to do is, remember, golden rule, switch your transmitter on first. Always do that in the cabin, in your shed, in the kitchen, and when you're out of the field, it's the golden rule. Always switch your transmitter on and your throttle is set. I've actually got mine on a warning, so if my throttle is open, I'll get a warning before it will actually activate. So I've now got my throttle off and everything is controlled. I've now got my battery. Now, one of the reasons I like to do it like this to start off with, if for any reason I have an issue, it's dead easy for me to rip this off or rip the speed controller off and chuck it out my cabin. It's never happened, but it's always in the back of my mind. So all I'm going to do now is I am just going to connect the battery. There you go, that's the little bleep telling me that it's all happy. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to advance the throttle very gently, and that's actually going in the right orientation that I need. I already know which way the prop and the motor has to turn. Now, you can, if you want to at this stage, if you just want to check then by all means, but do not put the prop on with it connected with the battery and the plane is live. If you decide you want to have a quick check with the prop that's going the right way, please take the battery off and make sure when you've switched it on you've got somebody holding the fuselage. So mine is fine. You might find it's turning the wrong way and you've got to change the negative positives on the speed controller, switch it off. And when I mean switch it off, that's take the battery off so it's dead. Then do your wiring, switch the transmitter off and go through the same process again. Throttle off, switch your transmitter on, then plug the plane in and then check to make sure you've got the right motor orientation. Once you've done all of that and you're happy, unplug the battery from the plane so the plane is now dead. As a habit, I like to switch the transmitter off as well. Then you can then add your propeller, make sure that the propeller is tightened down properly. My advice is, if you want to test the prop, go outside. Do not go outside with it connected. Go outside somewhere safe and then make sure that when you've connected it, throttle off, transmitter on, plug the battery in and then just check that your prop is all fine. And now we're ready to head to the field. Right, there she is, ready for the airstrip. Went pretty mental on the controls, but I've got a number of settings, so what I'm going to do is, oh by the way, you notice motor's not connected, just using a receiver battery at the moment just to show you. Anyway, there she is, one mini Lancer finished in tribute to Mark's buddy called Lance. If she flies half as well as she looks, then it's going to be a winner. Now, brilliant kit. I've had a number of people ask me of whether I thought this would be a good second plane. I mean, I have seen one lady's actually getting this as an aileron trailer. I don't know at the moment because I've not flown it. For a build, absolutely cracking. I mean, superbly supplied kit. Couple of gripes. I don't like the magnets, the attachment on the bottom there. I think, Mark, if you could just put a ply plate across there would be nicer. Also, not a big fan of this, but I believe this is the first time I've built one of these fun fly wings, so I believe that this style of rudder is quite popular. I'd like to have seen it inside the fuselage or just the old, you know, a tube with a push rod, but that's just a minor gripe. I didn't have any issues building the kit, didn't have to message or ring Mark to say what does this mean. So yeah, if you're looking for a fun fly, so this is the mini Lancer. Also there's the full size Lancer, which is I think this, Mark said this is I think this is half size. So yeah, if you want to go the big boy one, then by all means, and then I'll put a link in the description. But you can guarantee now we're going to have crap weather for a week, although I do think on Monday showing 28-29 degrees with a light easterly, and I've got a lovely airstrip for this. Anyway, hope you like this. Sorry the last episode of the build was a little bit longer than normal. A couple of little things, life got in the way. I had to take my granddaughters camping and I'm in one piece. Anyway, I'll see you soon, so stay tuned for the next project, because that's going to be a tribute to my father called the Ronnie Boy, which has got such a fantastic story to it. You're not going to want to miss that. And yes, I'm back on the laser. Nick's second design on the laser. It's going to be a fun project, but that's going to be leading on to possibly an even more exciting project to do with an F3K discus launch glider. Anyway, thanks guys, see you soon.